So, welcome to vlog 13. You can probably see that I'm not in my office at the university, I'm now back at home. The whole of the UK is presently trying to stay in as much as possible to help limit the spread of this horrible COVID-19 disease. Before I start, I want to say a massive thank you to all the amazing people in the community around me. So, from the people stacking the shelves, to the frontline NHS workers, to the mailman who delivered our post this morning. It's amazing, to be honest, and it means that I feel actually very safe sitting in my house. I think I'm very lucky to be able to sit in my house and actually spend quite a lot of my day getting on with university work. So in this video I thought I'd update you on what's happening with the teaching to our undergraduate and taught postgraduate students, and then fill you in a bit about with the PhD students and how we're communicating during this period. But to start, I thought I would try to share some helpful tips of how to make working from a home environment as comfortable as possible so you can get the most from your studies as we go through this very strange, disrupted period. My first tip is to really remember that you're not actually working in your usual environment, and to be kind to yourself. Oh, there's my screen going. Be kind to yourself, because it's odd. You'll have other things going on in your mind. You might have family members that you're worried about, you might have friends that you're worried about, you may be concerned about getting food or supplies or caring for a loved one. So as you're trying to do work at home, just remember to be a bit kinder to yourself than you might normally be. But anyway, so the way I operate is I am very task focused, especially when I'm working from home, and one of these sheets really helps me. You know, you don't need to have the fancy sheets, you can just do it on a piece of note paper. At the start of every week, on every Monday, I list out all the activities that I'm trying to tick off that week, and I break them into morning and afternoon slots, and I try to only put 2 or 3 things on each day. So a couple of goals in the morning, a couple of goals in the afternoon that are very much university work focused, and I'll also add into that some goals to do with sport, getting my hour's worth of exercise, cooking, and anything that I need to actually do in order to keep things running smoothly, looking after others. So yeah, I would say think about what motivates you throughout the day, and for me it's very much having a set of tasks to do, and then I'm not fixated so much on the length of time that it's taken to do each of these tasks. My goal is to try to complete the tasks by the end of the working day. That's my first top tip. Second tip is, once you've got your tasks organised and you've got your week sort of structured in front of you, then think about your setup. So I'll try to include a clip here showing the setup. Basically, I've hooked my laptop up to an old screen monitor that we had. I've connected a keyboard and a mouse onto the system. I've raised my laptop up onto a plinth thing that I bought ages ago. That means that when I do my telecommunications, when I use like all the Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Skype to have a conversation, I'm at eye line with the camera. It also gives me a cubby hole where I can tuck away my books at the end of the day. So try to get yourself comfortable. This was a very old table that was at the back of our garage, which I dug out. I've got cushions on my old chair to try to make that comfortable. Bring some plant life if you can into your environment. So this is my plant for my office, which I managed to get on my last working day in the office. I've got my pens, so a nice collection of pens, notebooks, and I've got a lovely window here so I can get some fresh air and actually see the sky and see the sun when it pops out, although it's snowing this morning. So next thing is think about the mode that you're going to be using to communicate with people whilst you're working at home. So for me, it's predominantly email, and then using my laptop to be at eye line with the camera so that I can do teleconferences with other academics and with the students. So think about your backdrop. I've got a few bits and pieces behind me. I'm very lucky to have a keyboard, so I've got a keyboard behind me. I've actually got an inherited rowing machine to the other side of me. Just give it a cautionary thought as to what's behind you. My friend once did a conference call and she had her laundry behind her, which wasn't maybe quite what you want to have in your backdrop. Also, if you can, try to get yourself a nice quiet environment. Again, I'm very lucky, I can shut myself in this room when I want to work, and it means at the end of the day, when I finish working, I can put my books away in their cubbyhole, and I can turn my computers off, shut the door, and actually that's a really nice distinction between working during the day and then the end of my working day. And for me personally, I think it's really important to have a start time and an end time to your day. So not only will I divide up my day into the tasks that I want to achieve, I'll also zone my day. So I'll start work at a certain time and then I'll say I'm going to stop maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours later to go get a coffee, then I'll do another hour, then I'll have another stop, I'll take a proper lunch break, so I'll stop for a full hour for lunch, take the time to cook something because I'm at home, actually sit down and really enjoy that meal, try to step outside into the garden if I can, I'm lucky to have a garden, maybe open a window, get some fresh air in, and then I have a going back to work time where I go back to my office, so my desk in my spare room, work for a couple more hours, and then again another break, and then I try to do another hour or so in the afternoon. That's the plan, but as I said, I am kind to myself, and if I finish a task early, then I'll allow myself to have a few minutes of, I don't know, flicking through the news, or maybe having a quick look at a book or a magazine, just to refresh before I do the next task. How often you check the news and social media is very personal. When I'm working, I like to put my phone to one side. I try to make it go to quiet mode so that I don't get disturbed by messages. That lets me have a focused period of time where I'm focusing on the task that I'm trying to complete without being disturbed by beeps from my phone. However, I will check my phone in my designated break times. If I finish a task earlier, I might reward myself with looking something up on YouTube. In terms of the news, I try to only check it a couple of times a day. So I'll have a look once maybe in the morning, and I'll have a look in the evening. Personally, I try to avoid watching the very late news. I want to keep aware of what's going on, I want to know what I should be doing, how I can help with the situation, but I don't feel I need to have news as the last thing I see before I go to bed. So I'll watch an earlier edition of the news, and then in the evening, once I've watched that and I've got myself updated with everything, I'll then try to make a conscious effort not to watch it anymore, and actually to read something that's interesting, like a book, a magazine, listen to some music, watch a silly film, just anything to give yourself a bit of space from the situation that we sadly find ourselves in. If I was in an office environment, of course I would be walking down and having a cup of coffee in the kitchen, I'd be chatting to my next door neighbours in their offices, I'd be popping in to see my PhD students, and again, try to factor that into your day. So I will stop and I'll pause and exchange emails with a colleague, maybe have a chat with somebody using either WhatsApp or using Teams or Zoom or any of the tools that are out there, just to give you that social interaction as you go throughout the day. Now, I'm lucky, I live with my other half, he's also an academic, so we can pause together and chat together about things. If you're by yourself, I think it's really important to make sure you have those moments in your day where you're actually personally connecting with another person, not just by email, but ideally by talking, and it's even better if you can actually see them. Video calls can be a bit awkward when you start, but I think it's so good if you can do a video call every now and then, because it's nothing like actually seeing the person you're chatting to really help with that kind of conversation and connection with the wider community. So in terms of students, my undergraduate students actually broke up for their Easter vacation as of Friday, so they're technically on their vacation period for 4 weeks. The university has moved to complete online teaching, so that means we'll now deliver all of our classes by using Panopto, which is a recording studio that we have in each of our lecture theatres, or by using the tool Zoom, or by using another recording software. Some academics will choose to give that talk live still, as if they're giving the lecture to their students, and the students will tune in from wherever they are and listen to that lecture. Other academic colleagues I have like to pre-record their lecture, then they can post it and then answer student questions as they have that lecture period. I teach a radiation laboratory class, that's for the master students. Now that's obviously had quite a big change because we can't do any experiments at the moment. And we're not going to be allowed to get back into the laboratory, we don't think, after Easter to do any further experimental work. So we've changed the project slightly. Each of the groups has an academic mentor helping them through this change. We're changing these experimental projects actually into now pieces of coursework that will be based on a literature review and modelling and a planned experiment, which sadly they won't get to complete. But I would much rather my students stay out of the lab and stay well and healthy and safe. So I think it's a very good decision. And the academic team are being brilliant at helping adjust the assessment criteria to make sure all students are properly evaluated in line with this new change. We're trying to communicate that with our students frequently. So as an academic, it's a balance. I want to stay in contact with the students. I want to make sure that they are comfortable with what's happening and they know the changes that are happening to their module. At the same time, I know the students are getting a lot of information, both from the university, from the course tutors, from the faculty, and I don't want to layer anything unnecessary on top of that when they're getting so much information. So as a lecturer, it's a real balance to make sure you're giving enough information, but not overloading or swamping the people who are on the receiving end of lots of it, because I'm getting lots of emails in my lecturer role and I don't want to pass on too many emails to the students. The PhD students, well, we're actually all working from home, so in my group we have a regular coffee morning, so one morning each week we all log on at a certain time. We use Microsoft Teams or we use Zoom, and that means we can all talk to each other. Everyone brings a cup of tea. We've started to do fun challenges each week, so that's actually really nice. My PhD students are fantastic. They've all adapted to being in a home environment 100% of the time. They have collected lots of data over the last few weeks and saved all the analysis for this period, which means they can now crunch data whilst working from home. At the start of the week, we exchange emails, make sure we all know roughly what we're aiming to do for the next 5 days, and then we'll have an individual catch-up, so we'll have a one-to-one chat later on in the week. I try to help with any remote problems, so any analysis, or look at paper drafts, or read anything that they've been writing towards a particular report, set ideas for the next week, and then of course we have these coffee meetings as a group, and then I'm encouraging our PhD students to have chats away from the formal chats as well, and I know they are, just to stay in touch with each other and just again to retain that kind of research community spirit and vibe to help us all through the next few weeks. At the moment we're in lockdown for another 2 weeks before the government here will make another assessment of the situation. I think it's very much an evolving situation as to how the numbers and how the situation develops. Personally, being in lockdown, as I said, I feel very lucky. I have a nice place to be in lockdown. I think the community around us is amazing. There are people doing amazing jobs helping the rest of us be able to stay at home. For my bit, I will stay at home. And also I'm making a science story video every week, so this is deliberately a family-friendly story, not necessarily for young children, probably for your older primary school and your earlier secondary school children, but again, just a fun thing that I could do. I can share some knowledge once a week, I can do it in a fun way, and hopefully it's nice for my colleagues and friends who've got children at home now to be able to have something they can watch, although having seen the internet there is so much stuff you can do at the moment, from online exercise classes, to learning a new language, to practicing your baking. I mean, it's absolutely amazing the tools and resources that are on the internet. So yeah, it's all good. It's not what I expected to happen this spring, but it's a situation. So I'm, as I said, very fortunate. This afternoon I have got some emails to do, and then I've written a conference paper, so I shall send that off. Tomorrow we're doing an examination for a PhD student, and we'll be doing that by using the online Teams software. So again, it just shows really how easy it's actually been to transition to using all of these virtual tools. And I suspect when I go back into teaching in the classroom, most likely I guess from the autumn onwards, actually I think I'll make more use of these tools now I've had the kind of the exposure and been forced to use them. But anyway, that is me just really rambling on, so look after yourselves, stay safe. Top tips are work out what motivates you. For me, it's having my tasks planned out. Get your work environment as comfortable as you can make it. If you can, try to have a space where you can close it up or shut it down. If you're using a space in your bedroom for your working environment, maybe have something you can throw over the top of it so you don't have to see it when you finish for the end of your day. That's a really good way of kind of switching off from your work mode to your relaxation mode. Don't forget you will need to have regular breaks throughout your day, because we haven't got those interactions in corridors and chats in the classroom or chats in the kitchen, so factor that in. And finally, make sure you're being kind to yourself. You know, some days you'll be productive and other days, for a variety of reasons, you won't. And that is absolutely fine. So stay safe, look after yourselves, and I will see you next week for another video about academic stuff. Alright, bye.